so it is 8:03. We are going to get started. This is a COVID-19 update, and we are delving into the topic of organ transplant. And I've gotten a guest, Dr. Charles, to sort of help with some of your questions around kidney disease. So we've got to get going because we got a lot of information today. Okay, you can reach me on Instagram at AskDrV_. All right, so COVID-19 deaths are accelerating worldwide. The United States here, we are waning because of the vaccine, but worldwide there is not access to the vaccine like there is in the United States. So let's get into it. Don't let your guard down. We've got to stick to what we've got, which is masking, 6 feet of distancing, cleaning, and washing your hands. It's highly contagious. Minimum time of exposure is 45 seconds. Percentage of people that actually get COVID-19 is 60 to 80%. Now, I want to share this. I didn't get a chance to add this to the slide, but I actually decided to take a short flight today. This is the first time I've actually taken a flight. So I want to actually, on Tuesday, I'll share some photos from my flight about what has actually happened. So a couple of things. One is, first, I actually got a notice that my flight was going to be full, which was to my chagrin, of course. It was a smaller plane with 2 seats on each side. Now, it was United Airlines. What they did do is they actually gave me something so I could clean down my armrest and the things that I touch. In addition, when they gave sodas, rather than giving you a cup worth, they gave you the whole can of soda. So, you know, there were some things that I actually think really worked for it. I used my N95 mask that I'm fit tested for. As I told you all, I am only taking shorter flights. So I went on a flight that was about an hour and 15 minutes. And mainly because of this and how contagious it is. So let's talk about how it replicates and enters your cell. So the COVID-19 virus is inside of a fatty layer. There's a spike protein on the surface that connects with a receptor protein and then allows it to get into the cell. Once it gets in the cell, it replicates, and it replicates over and over and over and over again. You have 1 trillion cells, 1 T, like Tom. You have 1 trillion cells in your body. So it replicates, and it replicates not only the virus, but also the spike protein and all of the fatty layers. Then it gets itself assembled and it heads back out and it infects another cell. And that happens over and over and over again. So as you can imagine, if one person has 1 trillion cells, when this virus impacts millions, it's actually replicating over and over and over again. And every time it replicates, it has the opportunity to make a mistake that makes it stronger. And then that stronger virus actually becomes the dominant virus. And that is how mutations and variants are actually formed. All right, Dr. Fauci said developing the COVID-19 vaccine was the best decision he ever made as NIAID director. I would agree with that. Let's talk about how they work. Pfizer and Moderna are messenger RNA vaccines. They're coded for the spike protein that actually allows it into the cell. You produce the spike protein, it recognizes it as foreign, develops antibodies specifically to the spike protein and kills it. So when you see COVID-19 in the community, you are prepared. Johnson & Johnson uses a viral vector approach. It uses an adenovirus or a common cold. It alters it to become harmless, attaches that to genetic material of COVID-19, and again, teaches the body to generate antibodies to the spike protein that renders COVID-19 harmless. So these are the various vaccinations that are either available or in study. We have Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson that are currently being administered. And I have the efficacy there. A little bit about, Johnson & Johnson is 1 dose, everything else is 2 dose. The side effects are very similar. What you will see, Janssen owns Johnson & Johnson, and Janssen actually is 2 shots of Johnson & Johnson to see if that actually makes a difference. Novavax is actually 1 vaccine, which you will actually probably see apply for emergency use authorization within the next 30 days. AstraZeneca, which is used in Europe, had a lot of problems with the protocol of the study. And I do not think that that will ever be approved in the United States, but it will be used abroad in other countries. I know we're specifically giving AstraZeneca vaccines to other countries because we purchased it ahead of time. It's not approved in our country, so we are giving it to other countries. FDA ended the recommended pause in the J&J and states have started using it. And as we discussed, it was really to educate the physicians on what to do around the side effect of clotting and how to actually treat it. Canada came out and said that messenger RNA vaccines are preferred to Johnson & Johnson, and Johnson & Johnson can be offered to adults that are 30 and over. This is important because a lot of people ask me, which one is the better one? So the messenger RNA, which is Moderna or Pfizer, is preferred per the Canada data. Now, I will say this, if you had COVID-19, it really doesn't matter because anybody who has had COVID-19 has an increased response to any of these vaccines. So they are even more effective if you've had COVID-19. The FDA is set to approve the vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds. They are submitting the, children, pediatric 12 to 15-year-olds, I would expect that that would be approved in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Children now account for 22% of US COVID cases. This is really, really important. This is what happens when you vaccinate the elderly. The disease kind of actually moves to the younger section of people. We have actually at our hospital seen admissions of younger people and a couple of even breakthrough cases. Your risk of getting COVID-19 is not just related to your vaccination status, it's also related to how much COVID-19 is in your community and how much of what variant. Right, which is very, very, very important. So people think, oh, I'm vaccinated and I'm fine. No, if you are in a community with a very, very high concentration of COVID-19, you really need to be careful because again, you're vaccinated against the COVID-19 that originally came, and we now have mutations and variations that are actually circulating. We are looking at people actually having a booster shot on Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I will have on this webinar information on the science around the booster shot for Moderna, and I believe for Moderna and possibly Pfizer. So the third booster shot, what it does, why it's needed, I will actually have that information on Tuesday. That information was published, so I will get it aggregated and put together in digestible and easy to read format, and we are going to talk about that on Tuesday, the booster shot. All right, I want to talk specifically about India, which has been going, out of control.
Distortion.
Would you go ahead and go on mute? I'm good now. India has been going out of control. The cases now are up over 300,000 a day of new cases. Yeah. Hey, you can go ahead and go on mute.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Because we were deadly in India. I want to say deadly and resistant to vaccines in India. Watch what is going on in India. We are going to continue on this programming, watching what is going on in India. These actually very strong resistant mutations are, some of them have 2 and 3 headed spike proteins. And these mutations if circulate around the world. So I don't want to scare people, but I want people to be aware of factors. One, you have a politician that declared success against the virus. People were allowed to relax and go back to large weddings and events. They have been running out of oxygen and threatening to actually outdoors. If you're running, there are some universities that will be requiring COVID-19 vaccines. Start this is a short list. There are many, many more. For instance, for myself, I had restaurants flying eat inside of a restaurant. The Dr. Fauci even has his third and will not eat inside of a restaurant. So again, this is something that is kind of converting nation people. Are the ones that are driving the infection. And get a COVID-19 vaccine. Those today that actually said that. And what actually he said was, well, when I want to travel out of the country, that'll probably be when I go and get one. Your family, and you want for their opinion. Cab driver who told me that he didn't want to get the fact that he doesn't get the flu shot, and important. And then when you actually say something, these vaccines have been some of them actually need a little hand holding and going with someone. And pointing out how they're protecting others. Chris Christie promotes, actually, there's a lot of politicians now that are actually promoting they are that as a reason, their political bid, and we're seeing this in Florida. Could be a sign that Yale that a lot of people don't realize your nails are a very important area to show how well you hypoxia be a perpetual back wellness. So let's talk about important. You guys have asked a lot of questions. All right, so organ transplant is a medical procedure where you remove from one body, so bone, tendons, cornea, and vein. Kidneys, though, are organs, which is why we actually started talking, because we were talking about kidney transplant. There are different types of transplant. Autograft is a transplant that you give yourself. So imagine that I actually take a tissue from one area. A perfect example would be I take a vein from one area and I put it in another area of my body, or I take fat from one area and put it in another area. Allograft is done between genetically non-identical members of the same species. Isograft is done from genetically identical species, like identical twins. Xenograft is done from one species to another. Split transplant, which is very, very interesting. This is when a deceased donor organ is split between two or more recipients. So the most common example of this is a liver, where you take to 2 or 3, primarily cystic fibrosis plant as recent, but this has actually been going on for a very, very long time. The science of this is something that we've actually been working on for a while. 1908 was the first transplant of a knee. 1909 was the first recorded transplant, and it was to a human recipient. In 1954, that's when we had the first successful kidney transplant. 1963 was the first successful lung transplant. 1967 was the first successful liver transplant. 1968 was the first successful heart transplant. 1973 was the first successful bone marrow transplant. And then 1983 was actually Barney Clark, who actually became famous as the first person to receive a mechanical heart. And he actually lived 112 days. And then 1998, we had the first successful hand transplant. So as you see, transplant medicine, this actually shows, this was done at the University of Louisville. I really remember this, and this actually really motivated me to actually go to medical school. I thought that, and I still feel like medicine and science is going to take us in a lot of different directions. 1954 was the first successful transplant of any organ. It was done at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Pennsylvania, done by Dr. Joseph Murray, who then received the Nobel Prize in Medicine after the successful kidney transplant. Now, there's a lot of things that go into a transplant. So one, you've got to have matching blood type, body size. You've got to look at the severity of the person's condition. Another factor a lot of people think about: how far is the donor away from the hospital? How far is the recipient away from the hospital? What is the patient's waiting time? Is the patient available? If we contact them and we say we have a kidney ready for them or a heart ready for them, I mean, do we get them, or do we go to voicemail? I mean, all of these things are very, very important when you look at matching donor and recipient. Now, one of the primary areas to match people are blood type. This is the first match. And, you cannot give organs that are from people of incompatible blood type. So let me talk about that. If somebody is a donor, and somebody that's a blood type of O can donate to anyone. However, if you have blood type O, then you can only receive from somebody who has blood type O. If you have blood type A, then you can only receive from somebody who has A or O. If you have blood type B, you can only receive from somebody who has B or O. And then blood types. So, and how come it seems like could we have more African American donors? What is actually going on? So I wanted to actually show this. This is blood type by race. And as you see, African Americans and Hispanics have a higher percentage of blood type O, which means they are more likely to be donors. So if you're more likely to be a donor, you're less likely to be a recipient, right? So I wanted to just kind of show this. Let's talk about this because people are waiting for how our hearts again looks at body size and distance between the hospital. The donor is offered first to the candidate who matches a particular scoring mechanism that they use. It's a model for end-stage liver disease or pediatric end-stage liver disease. And it's a scoring factor that determines who's more serious. A liver can actually remain outside the body for 12 to 15 hours. So kidneys are also decided by blood type, length of time on the waiting list. The kidneys actually can stay outside of the body for 36 to 48 hours, longer period of time. Disease. And again, we give kidneys to people who are in stage 4 or 5, and usually preference is given to folks that are in a later stage and also have the social structure and are available and accessible and actually are a match with the blood type and all of the compatibility ratings. So this just actually shows, how organs are allocated, whether or not it's kidney, lungs, liver, or heart. And again, in some of these instances, you're talking about kids, right? We have kids that may be getting these organs, and age is also factored into it. Preserving organs is a matter of time. Time is important. This actually shows, your heart and lung transplants will not sustain that long outside the body. When you look at something like kidneys, they will actually sustain much longer. When you look at the waiting list, we have way, way, way more people that need a kidney transplant and cannot get a kidney transplant. So this is how come you often hear the most about kidney transplants. When you look also, the waiting list is shifted by age. We have more people that are over 50 that are waiting for a transplant. Currently, 107,000 people nationwide are waiting for a transplant organ of some type. When you look at this, every 9 minutes, another person is added to the transplant list. Each day, 7 people and basically 3 people in 1,000 die in a way that allows for organ donation. So it could be a gunshot wound or emergent death that is unanticipated. one person can donate up to 7 life-saving organs. So 7 to 8 life-saving organs. So this is where all the transplant centers are in the United States. Most of us have a transplant center that's actually near us. Obviously, they're usually in more urban ones. Survival rates are very high. So kidneys and liver, 95 to 98%. It's unfortunate because, we're seeing of COVID-19 and those do our survival rates. Doing amazing work in this area. I just show a couple of them so that way people sort of see, some of the organizations that are actually doing this work. These are some of the ones that actually do work around tissue transplant. Some people may not want to donate their organs, but they're okay donating tissue, like their corneas, etc. And so this is really, really important. We see tissue transplants even in veterinary medicine. So we have sort of cornea transplants that are done in animals, pets, dogs, cats, etc. Bone marrow transplants. So that is also done in the veterinary field as well. This is someone who I mentioned, the Minority Organ Tissue Transplant Education Program. I just wanted to just share with everyone. This is the website if you want to go on there and check it out. This is actually who they are and what they do. And these are, they also promote being a living donor. All right, we're going to go to Q&A.